told us that we weren't charging enough for our cargo. Increased commodity competition for containers. Smaller volumes of imports versus growing demand for ag export. None of the containerized carriers are performing well in the current global economy. Upwards of over 500 containerized vessels put to anchor, and well over 1 million TEU of capacity has come off the market since January 1st. Slumping imports to the U.S. has created increased competition between the various markets for these assets. I did this on a scale of 1 to 100 because this is the first PowerPoint that I've ever actually put together myself, and I couldn't figure out how to do 1 to 10, so it's 1 to 100. But starting off, what we have here is the military and Department of Defense cargo, which is the highest paying cargo that Maersk carries. Next to that, we've got the food aid. Again, this is government subsidized, a lot of this going into third world countries, Africa. Household goods, very expensive, highly emotional cargo that demands a pretty high cost. Chemicals go down to GDSM, and then we come down to the lowest ones. We've got metal scrap, waste paper, and grains. Grains are now the lowest paying export commodity that Maersk has out of the United States. Before the break bulk slide, as I like to call it, if you go back to perhaps February, March of 2008, grains was up above waste paper and the metal scrap, and was almost close to the general department store merchandise. So all of a sudden we're finding, this very valuable commodity to the world not paying very much. And in today's financial situation, every penny counts. Who will get the assets? Industries which are able to pay the most to compensate for the costs, and sustainable profitability will enjoy the most success. This is a simple balance sheet. I'm sure you're all familiar with that. We have to make sure that our costs are balanced. Where are the containers? The only location, again, going back, the United States was a very surplus location for containers. There was always plenty in Newark, Norfolk, Charleston, Miami, Houston, the Pacific Southwest, which is Long Beach and Los Angeles, Oakland, and the Pacific Northwest of Seattle and Tacoma. There is only one location in the United States now that is continually surplus, and that is not even as much as it used to be, and that's Los Angeles. Other commodity values to the carriers. This is what we base our value of the different markets that we're working with on. Origin and destination of the commodity. Where are we going to see the most velocity and the highest paying cargo, from which origin to which destination? Reliability of the customer to load what is booked. We have challenges with a number of the markets, such as waste paper. And what happens with waste paper is you have got a number of very large shippers that will make very substantial bookings, 100, 200, 300, 600 containers at a time with various carriers. But what they'll do is they will make those bookings with 4 or 5 different carriers that they have, and then they only show up with the carrier that is going to make the most sense at the time. So we have got large bookings a lot of the time to where we're expecting large volumes of containers to move. The customer never shows up for it. That's a problem. Reliability of the customer to load what's booked, I just touched about that. Ease of doing business with one customer over another, I'm sure you're all familiar with that. It comes down to relationship, trust, and performance. We have got certain carriers or certain customers that do what they say, and then we have other ones that don't do what they say. So obviously we want to do business and partner with the ones that are going to keep showing up for the cargo and do what they say. Again, commodity segments more problematic than others. Is there a lot of claims involved with one specific commodity versus another? We don't see many claims on the agricultural products, which is a good thing. How well does the customer commodity work with carriers in a changing market? Again, very important. If it's an upward swing, which markets are going to be able to pay the higher rates when it is time to pay our higher rates versus those that are only going to support us when the rates are down in the basement. Free time, big issue of free time. Maersk and all the other carriers' product is the container. If that container is not moving, it's not earning money. So we try to avoid free time, which Doug and a couple of other people that I work with know I called free storage, no additional free storage. If you're able to get a container at origin, turn it quickly, get it to destination, turn it quickly and get it back into the pipeline, that's the kind of business that's the most appealing to us, because again, when that container is moving, we're making money. Accounts receivables, cash flow. Again, if you've got a customer that pays on time, pays well, great. If you've got one that you have to call every other week saying, where's the freight cost, that's another problem. And again, claims. What I've got here, I'd like to introduce our country manager, Mr. Jakob Sorensen, here, who is the country manager for Indonesia. He's been with Maersk for 22 years, all over the world, with both Maersk Line and Maersk Logistics. He's going to talk just briefly about the services that we offer here in Indonesia specifically.
Thanks, Andy. Good morning, everybody. I guess you don't need to be introduced to a map of Indonesia. I guess most people here are from Indonesia. But I still just wanted to point out, and we've given you some handouts which were on the tables yesterday. We have more of those, so if you require, we do have them for your
the middle one,
for your understanding of that shows the U.S. origin ports, and then it shows the transit times into Tanjung Pelepas. And what I realized when we had printed that brochure was that we had missed out Indonesia, and I think most importantly all the destination ports. And here in this map we've actually missed out Malaysia and Singapore. But cargo that comes in from the US will end up approximately here in a port that we run in Malaysia, just on the other side of the port or the Strait of Johor, which is called Tanjung Pelepas. I guess most people have heard about Tanjung Pelepas. It's a port that Maersk started using in 2000, and we actually broke Singapore PSA's monopoly. So by introducing that port, we were able to reduce the transshipment cost substantially. Now, in Indonesia, we run our own feeder network in Maersk Line. We have our affiliated feeder company called MCC Transport, and they run feeder services for us as Maersk Line, as well as their own independent intra-Asia service. So it's a very complementary product that they have. And again, I apologize, TPP is not here, but we have a feeder that goes from Tanjung Pelepas to Jakarta, actually three times a week from TPP into Jakarta, likewise to Semarang, Surabaya, and to Palawan. Then recently what we have seen is that out in the outports of Indonesia there's actually a substantial amount of export. Today a lot of that cargo is domestic feeder, let's say from Bitung here, from Manado into Surabaya, rehandled, put into international containers and then exported. That's a pretty expensive operation. What we have started to offer is to have our empty equipment available out here for these guys. They can load the exports and get it out on the network without any transshipment and rehandling expenses. Now, for your imports, and I know you service many of the outports as well, we can do the same thing. So you can use the same container as Andy would load in the US all the way out to Pontianak. I met some people yesterday from Pontianak, Makassar, Bitung, Samarinda, and a number of ports that are actually not mentioned on this map. We work with good Indonesian feeder companies like Meratus, like Samudra Indonesia, and we have very competitive rates with them for that on-carriage. So I think when you have this requirement for outports, the container is the only solution there that will give you a direct service. You will not get a bulk carrier to go out to the outports. Of course, I know many of you are then importing to, say, Jakarta, and then from there you are shipping smaller quantities out to your other activities. And that's again a costly affair that you can avoid with having direct containers. But we'll be very happy to speak with you individually on your requirements for this service.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.